have some awesome podcast episodes coming up for you guys. I've got a great bunch of guys together for a podcast we're starting on everything combat related. We have some special operations vets and amazing cool stuff for you guys, so keep an eye out for that next week.
Hey guys, we're back. How's it going?
Q&A number 2. Zombie apocalypse survival or any equivalent world disaster.
I think we need to start out by talking about the whole idea of a zombie thing. Has anyone here looked into it, whether it's actually biologically feasible?
I think I've met a few zombies in my life.
So yes.
A bit early on for this podcast, isn't it? I don't feel that people know us well enough yet. I suppose if it's on your channel they might, but it's a deep question, talking about zombies, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a...
But we have to do what the listeners want.
But I think we need to broaden it, because look, I don't think any of us four here truly fear a real zombie apocalypse. Although after watching that show Walking Dead, I kind of would be open to that. But I don't think it's going to be a real thing. But I guess it's like a world disaster. Like there was a second, especially when I was in America, in like some of the southern states when Corona still kicked off, and people were freaking out. You combine all those fights at the shopping centres with everyone carrying guns, and it was like, whoa! This was epic. Buddies I know who I didn't even know were gun owners were like carrying their guns loaded on their seats and stuff. You know, so it was a heightened thing. So I guess we could broaden it and talk about like an end of the world, end of society.
Yeah.
What do you do first? So you see all your neighbours freaking out, dying, whatever. What do you do first, Raoul?
Well, I'm going to go back to this Corona thing. I'm going to go buy some bloody toilet paper. That was the worst. You know, it's so funny. Like, the whole, right, like last year, no jokes aside, like people literally were like, "Fuck, the world's ending." Like this is.
And that's what they.
And that's what they went for.
This is the people we live with.
Not dried pasta or something.
Yeah. Get it now.
And people freaked out about it. I know that, like, I was down to almost nothing in it, and we in South Australia here, where we're filming this, we produce our own toilet paper. Like, this is where Australia's toilet paper comes from and stuff. So we weren't even importing it. We were worried about like our border restrictions screwing it up. So you get toilet paper. You get toilet paper. What about you, Jerome?
No, I'm getting gas.
Getting a gas.
What does that do?
Yeah, it depends.
No, it doesn't matter. Jesus, Corona.
No, I'm grabbing some sort of serious weapon.
What? But it was interesting. If it was a survival situation, I've got some buddies in America that had, obviously they've got lots of guns and stuff. I mean, like, I own probably too many guns, but they have like a survival gun. So sometimes it's like a 22 LR or something. It's something that's going to be ammo for days around the world. It's quiet. It's going to do what they probably need it to do. What one gun?
It depends what the purpose is.
Yeah, well, I mean, in my head, if it's an apocalypse, I'm just going to grab my funnest gun. So I'd probably grab, like, okay, my Glock 9mm. That's what I'd use. It's going to be reliable. I'm going to find none ammo, whatever, and it's going to be enough.
What about distance?
Why do I? Oh, okay. Well, do we get
the
two?
world's ending. No, yeah, that one.
Okay, no, I take my Glock and I take it in the chassis so I could use it long distance as a 9mm like carbine type. So anyway,
Which you don't have.
which I don't own. I don't know.
If you did, you'd take one.
Hypothetical. No, that's all totally legal. So what would you take?
No, I'm with you normal too.
Oh, okay. Yep. Wow, Glock too. Competitive shooters hate Glocks. So I'm glad that some service people here can actually talk about their merits, because they hate them. What about you, John?
I don't know. Might be a while. You've got a gun.
Well, we're not together. You
got
can't.
toilet paper, or was that a joke?
No.
What do you take, Raoul? Like a fork? The sharp stick?
It's in the corner wiping his ass.
You're a
You got a clean ass there, mate.
You're behind these guys. I mean, it depends what disaster it is, because if it was like a flooding or something, maybe I want to float.
What? How are you on two boats already? We're talking about doing
It depends, but it depends. Not if it was.
No, it's a school or something.
So it really depends on the circumstance.
These are not the answers. These aren't the answers that I've got.
So John's got his boat and he's got 2 of every animal in the neighbourhood.
And I'll tell you what I'll take.
Okay, so
It's like it can be anything.
society's broken down. Every computer in the world has just been, if it's electronic, a pulse bomb globally ruined everything. Society's in shambles. You can't call the police. Everyone's raiding and looting everything. It's chaos out there. Now what? Now your boat doesn't seem that good.
And I'm allowed one thing.
Well, I mean, we're selling one gun, but
What about a bunker fully equipped? That's one thing.
well, there are a lot of people with bunkers like that, especially in the hills and stuff. Not just for safety, but for fire and stuff. What weapon would you take, Raoul? Because you're not a gunner. So what weapon would you take?
I mean, yeah, no,
These
I mean,
guns.
I just take this on his own personally.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think if it were to go down, no, I think I'd probably go and learn like how to shoot and.
It's too late, mate.
It's too late.
There's no places open.
I'm going down with a machete, but
Back to your Latino roots.
yeah, exactly.
Well, would you guys stay in your home in this scenario? So it's the end of the world, people are going crazy, zombies, people, an invading military force, whatever it could be. And would you stay in your home? Or would you go, I'm going to leg it to a place in the fucking woods that no one's around? Would you guys stay?
I'm elevated, so I'm happy in that position.
Oh, wow, okay. Well, we don't all live in hilltop mansions like JD. For us, commoners. For us, yeah, that's why he wants his boat.
Yeah, I'm home.
What about you, Jerome? Would you stay put?
I'm fortifying home, for sure. Yeah.
Interesting.
You're fortifying it.
Yeah.
It's too late, mate.
Fucking board the board.
Tell that to his Glock barrel that's pointing at him when you walk up to him.
Yeah.
What about you? Would you stay at home, Roland?
No, I wouldn't. I think I'd.
Where would you go? Because I want to hang out with you when this happens.
Yeah.
So where are we going?
Yeah, no, I think I'd probably go.
What? You want the toilet paper, don't you?
I want the 24-pack Cocknell. I'm not lying.
Where are you going?
Triple plot.
I'm going away from the city, man. Like, that, obviously, that'd be like a
But
time.
it's done. Everywhere's going to be. So you're just driving,
Yeah.
and then when you run out of petrol,
It's a good thing I'm fit. I can keep running and keep going. Yeah.
what are you going to eat though?
I don't know.
I'm just
Yeah,
trying to throw some things out.
I'll figure it
I
out.
like to delve deep
I'm
into.
resourceful. No, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, cool.
Well, I have a friend who is into this, and it's not that common here in Australia. More people are into this kind of stuff in America. Like, I'm not aware of any Australian like zombie stores, but I know multiple zombie preparedness stores in the US.
Just like a gun shop.
Well, yeah, that's got other stuff
Yeah.
too. You know, more like survival, water sterilization, stuff like stuff. But so I asked him, okay, what would you do if it happened here? Like, and he lives in Southern Adelaide here. And he's like, well, I've got the blueprints to this shopping centre and they've got a massive water treatment thing. So I'd have my sewage and my water and everything sorted. I'd barricade it off and I'd basically own the shopping centre. And between the little hardware store thing that's in there and it's one of the local shopping centres here, between the food, like, that would be pretty good. And that will be my space.
But
You
he's,
know.
he's done some investigating into that.
Yeah.
Well, allegedly, I have it on good authority that this particular gentleman has the blueprints
Yeah,
and everything
I'm sure he
of
does.
it, and he's totally matted out of it. So I might just rock up there and be like, hey, let me in.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the full extreme, isn't it? Of just everything that possibly could happen, he's got an answer for.
What did you guys think was going to happen last year when Corona was going down? Like, because it was definitely like an era of like.
Like a
shit going
society
down.
panic.
Yeah,
for sure.
100%. Yeah. Did you guys feel that? Did you think that?
I thought it was going to be hard to live with the missus in the same house.
And then redo your introduction speech as newly divorced.
Hopefully she listens.
Gonna take Jerome and
I'm
I'm
joking.
very.
Yeah. Mate, I've made 2 mistakes in my life, both of them were getting married.
Ah well, this is hopefully not good now.
No worries.
They probably will.
No, don't.
And what did I think was going to happen? No. I don't think anyone knew that was the problem. You know, the government who was leading us probably, you know, nothing like this had happened. So, yeah.
Did you say you were in the US when?
Yeah, so I mean that was nuts. I remember being outside, like they'd shut all the shops down and stuff, and I mean, and obviously their cases were already in massive numbers. Like there was the epicenter in that little tri-state area, but yeah, at one stage, like someone came up to us in a parking lot, and a friend of mine like had to brandish a firearm to get him away, which isn't like a normal thing you would do when you trip to Walmart. And yeah, so there was definitely the panic. And several friends I knew like went and bought guns that did know guns. I mean, we're talking like gun in southern states where everyone has guns, but they wanted like personal firearms. They might have only had hunting guns, and they're like, this isn't going to do anymore. And so I think for me, there was a part of me, like a childish part, the same part that bought my red truck out there and shoots guns, that was like, oh, I hope this is crazy and people trying to break into my house, and I've like got this armory here. But at the same time, obviously it's probably not that fun when it's played out in real life. Like, I mean, I'm just going to dress in my gear full time now and just have guns printed.
Like, after this.
Yeah, I'm about to get my gun license revoked after this podcast. But I thought it could get panicky and crazy because I think after when you were told you had to stay in your home, like when that first order sort of came in, and it's like, what? It was the first time our government, like for a law-abiding citizen, that it affected us. Like I've not had the government or police say, get in there, stay in there, do that, because I haven't done anything to bring that on. It was the first time I was like, oh my God, my freedoms, my rights are being impacted, and it has nothing to do with my actions. Obviously it was for the benefit of our community's health, like I'm not an anti-government guy, but I thought it could get a bit crazy. I thought there'd be a little bit of like, maybe some robberies and some looting, which now looking back doesn't make sense because everyone was at home. I mean, the worst time to break into someone's
There
house.
was lots of looting, but just, yeah.
Oh yeah, well in America
Yeah,
there
lots,
was.
wasn't it? I mean, that just...
And like some crazy violence too. Like I got some footage of a friend who was filming from their Dallas like balcony, like an apartment, and everyone was like looting and stuff. And then it was like gunshots and stuff. Like I don't know what happened, obviously.
Oh wow.
It was like hectic. It was like, I think it could have been a shop owner trying to defend the shop or something, maybe. But you know, it was very closely tied as well. We were in the middle of the Corona stuff, and then America was dealing with other riots, and race and cops and stuff. Like they got it a bit more crazy than we did.
Yeah.
To be fair, like I felt the panic and the preparedness in America was way beyond here. Like, I don't know. Do you know anyone in Australia that when this thing hit, that anyone that maybe went out to go and get a gun, because we have to get licensed and stuff, so it's not like I just go to the shop and buy one. But it's quite quick nowadays to get your gun. It's much quicker. Back in my day when I got my license, you applied 6 months later, you got to do a course, and then it was like long time, months that you would have to wait. Do you know anyone who actually like got a gun or anything from this? I don't. Like no one that I know got a gun from this, but in America I could give you a list of a dozen people.
So in America, you can, with the states that you've been, you can just literally go into a shop and buy
For the
a gun.
most part, yeah. Sometimes there's like, I think only one of my friends, he went and bought, oh man, it was a wicked gun too, but he went and bought a pistol because it was his first gun that he'd ever owned. There was like a 24-hour wait. That was from like saying, oh yeah, this looks good. Like, so it's not a big deal.
24 hours.
I know, see, but like, no, he got angry, like, he was visibly pissed off in the gun store about it. And I'm like, this is a joke. Like, this isn't that much of a deterrent. If you're some crazy dude that wants to murder someone, going, just wait 24 hours, bro. Like, that's not a big deterrent, but maybe a deterrent for some. But no, I've been into stores in America and just bought guns and shot them and just gave them to friends. And,
Well, there's a bank in Texas that when you signed up, they would give you a gun.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy over there though, because you can literally just go down to like, it'd be like Walmart, which is like the equivalent of Big W over here, and just buy a gun.
Yeah, and on the other side of that, they've also got some states that are very conservative with the gun.
no, so like, yeah, so when I have to spend time in California, it's like the worst. Like I was joking about this with one of my SEAL close buddies, and he's like, look dude, like to shoot here in California just sucks. We have to justify, We have to get permits to buy ammo and then justify every round that we, like, in Texas, you can just go do whatever the F you want. Like, you know what I mean? It's totally different in the gun owning. I guess, you know, the right and left states, whatever. None of us are American. I only spent a couple of years over there. But
It'd be interesting to see the stats on Texas with their, like, mass shootings.
Well, no, here's the argument. The gun capital, the capitals of gun violence in America are tied to gun control states. That's the pro-gun argument. And you know, a lot of my American mates, we go out, we shoot, we train, you know, like, so they're going to be pro-gun. Yeah. But the pro-gun argument is all the places like LA or Chicago or like, I don't know, there's probably other ones too, New Orleans or something, that are crazy for gun homicides and stuff. They're all like we have in Australia. Basically, you can't own guns for the most part and just buy ammo. And for the rest of America, like in Texas and stuff, yes, they have lots of shootings, but like, I don't know, their argument is that it's safer because criminals will always have guns. Even in Australia, we're not a gun place, but I expect the biggest, baddest criminals out there would have guns. So the idea is criminals have guns, at least the good guys have guns in Texas.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, definitely. We got off a bit off the topic there, so let's try and go back.
Thanks, Dad.
No, just kidding. What about we pick 5 things that we need?
Oh, that's good.
5 things, because you can't do much with one really. You need a couple. And we'll go with a scenario that it's zombies. Everyone, if you get bitten, you become a zombie.
Oh, great.
Is there an antidote?
No.
Let's get a bit.
There might be. Technical.
Let's get
Well,
So
there is
zombies,
something-
they
something
can bite you,
antidote.
then you turn into a zombie, you only have 5 things.
Oh shit! Can I have some thinking time?
These are really good.
Well, I'm glad you asked this question.
I'm thinking motorbike leathers.
Motorbike leathers?
I mean, look, I used to ride a lot of motorbikes. I mean, okay, let's take out motorbike leathers. I'm just.
Did you get the question?
I have tight leather pants and a nice leather jacket.
So you can't be
and now they
bitten.
can't be bit. Exactly. I've got a helmet.
No,
What are you going to do? Bite
They
me?
can bite through a motorcycle.
They can bite through. Okay. All right. So forget my leather. It's probably going to be too hot during the summer months. Anyway.
It's not
A
like
gun.
you can carry either.
Gun. I mean, it would be good to carry some sort of radio communication potential, but where am I going to get that shit? CD
You
radio.
can, you can have
That's the
anything.
word?
You can have anything. You get a HF radio, you'll be right.
Maybe. Okay. But I mean, for me, water sterilisation tablets would be a big one. A knife, just for general things, like a survival knife, like my Tom Brown Traeger knife, my favourite one. So, survival knife.
As well.
Sorry?
You're a knife guy as well.
Yeah, I'm totally yeah, water sterilisation tablets. I mean, obviously, a knife, a gun. I mean, fuck, there's going to be a lot of downtime. I'm thinking maybe like a book or something. Can I have an iPad that's preloaded with free single books?
Unlimited books.
So that's 4.
Wi-Fi
I'm travelling light, so that's my fault. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think traveling is a huge thing here. So maybe like motorbike, you know, something to camp with.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Tens or a
Hey, you've had your fun. You're freezing to death.
a machete, a gun, and yeah, like I don't know, computer or just a phone, something so I can communicate when.
Just update your Insta as well.
Right, yeah,
You
of
need to
course,
update.
yeah. Keep it off the ground.
Yeah.
Just in the sound of that zombie over
All
there.
the zombies are slave.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
What about yourself? Bike, Sim?
No, no. I'd probably get some camper van, because obviously you've got the family as well. Yeah, Winnebago, but fully decked out though. Fully
With a
decked
gym.
out. Yeah,
With a gym.
Gym. Yeah, you can get the gym. A gun, clothing, food, and the water stuff as well. But my camper van's already got a radio in it, so I can still get comms.
See, the camper van covers a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Because you
It's
can
kinda
probably
cheap.
pick up like a water sterilisation.
Yeah.
In there.
Yeah.
You've got a stove. Because I was going to say water sterilising, like a hexy stove or something.
Yeah.
Some sort of shelter, whether it's a tent or whatever. Some wheels, probably a motorbike I'd go for. If I wasn't going to get Winnebago. I'm just going to come with you.
You can't come with me.
And the gun. And the gun.
Yeah. You're nice. Good little package. Do you want to throw a few other things in there? You happy?
Well, no, I think you guys have ticked it off well. I mean, I think, okay, now I feel like I want to take my truck and carry it.
Well, you got the truck as well.
I reckon I would love to mow down some zombies in my truck, to be honest. No, I would look.
That's a weapon.
It is. But then if you get stuck, I don't know. I've seen Walking Dead, I'm quite educated on this. And sometimes you hit enough zombies and it's all fun and games, but then you get stuck on one get stuck up in the wheel arch. Yeah. Then who's laughing? Well, probably not the zombies. They're like, not you.
That's where you need Rail's machines.
Yeah,
chop them down.
What about a ninja sword?
Are you teaming up for a while as well with people?
You'd have to. You'd have to have a crew.
Yeah. I mean, because you...
People slow you down.
Where do you get your shit from? Okay, so we're crazy. A guy runs in right now, eats Rail. He's just getting mung on. Where do you guys go to get all that stuff? I mean, you don't have to go to a hardware store or something.
To get what stuff for?
Well, I don't know. His fucking hex stove and stuff. He's going to need a whole bunch of stuff. Where's your... Do you have a camper van? You don't have that.
I'm assuming that I get all this stuff.
You're just going to roll some granny that lives near you.
No, I've already got it before it starts.
Oh.
If I have to go and get it, that's hard work.
But well, it's been a
You just steal one, haven't you? Maybe.
No one's going to be working it.
No.
Break in and take it and start the journey.
What do you reckon would be the best martial art for receiving advice here?
None. Shooting. I'm not having anything.
That was a question. Martial art.
Whoa.
Which one?
Not the one we were talking about before, specialising in fighting and target.
How do you kill them though?
What's the deal with the zombie? You have to, you want to get under their chin, don't you?
Yeah.
You can't, okay, you have to like cut the head off or kill the brain. Is that what the zombie?
I think that's generally that. What did they do in Walking Dead?
That's what you have to do. You have to
Because
shoot
we
it
go
off.
off that as being the most realistic.
Yeah, I mean, it's just science, guys. Well, in that case, I mean, it has to be distance. I mean, if anything, I mean, maybe, I've got a few friends that are like ex-Taekwondo Olympians. Tom Lim Jr., I'm talking about you if you're watching this. And I think as a Taekwondo Olympian, I reckon they could kick someone's head off.
Yeah.
A zombie head, I presume, would be more vulnerable to the old roundhouse kick.
A bit of side control on the zombie wouldn't be.
No, have
that. You just snap and you like that, just keep going.
Yeah, gross.
Well, that's what I think.
I mean, I guess it's not a martial art per se, but I think being combatively effective with the firearm that is, I mean, martial art. I mean, it is a thing, right? I mean, it's zombies, you know, I'm not going to punch him in the head.
But if you ran out of ammo.
Hit him with a stick. Okay, well, okay, no, hold on. Maybe some screamer or like Kali or something, or some like harness, like something with a stick.
Yeah.
I mean, you can hit a stick pretty hard. I reckon you can kill a human with a Filipino fighting stick. So
who's that main dude that does all that? He's on YouTube. Doug.
I don't even know.
Oh, you don't watch
I
it?
mean, well, no. There's a lot of
stick fighting on YouTube.
there's a million people that are fluent in that art. I mean, I have multiple friends just within Australia that are like, you know, the black belt equivalent in those arts that teach Filipino martial arts all the time. The Dog Brothers are pretty popular online. They were like the first guys to go, let's film it, let's go full contact stick fighting and see what happens. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, but they were some early adopters of jiu-jitsu too, so those guys have some good history. Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon we'll be there. Yep. Alright, fellas, we'll wrap it up.
Heck yeah. Zombie apocalypse, bring it on. We're ready now.
Alright, so what's the question today,
The question we're going with today is maintaining combat fitness. Which is obviously pretty cool.
you teach and run physical exercise stuff, so you're a bit of an expert in this field. What to you is combat fitness?
Yeah, I've thought about this topic quite a lot. I think a huge thing with if you're doing any sort of combat related thing is, first of all, understanding how your body's going to respond to a high stress situation. So somebody could be fit, they could be strong, but then being able to apply that physicality in a situation where you're under high stress, which can happen when you're in a combat situation, is a big part of being combat ready, I think, as far as your fitness is concerned. So a huge thing that I think, probably all of us can probably relate to when you first get into jiu-jitsu, you might be really strong, but a huge part of, for example, with jiu-jitsu is being able to learn to manage your strength. So because there's so much of having, doing or performing isometric holds, like when you're doing a choke or you're trying to go for a submission, especially at the start when you don't really know the position very well, you burn yourself out, and it almost doesn't matter how strong you are as long as the other person knows how to just slightly put something in between you and them, and you're choking and choking, nothing's happening. So I think a huge part of being combat ready as far as fitness is concerned is having a good understanding of what your body can do and how you're going to maximize that which your body can do. And as far as preparation goes for that, I think a huge thing is learning to critically look at yourself and look at what your weaknesses are and trying to work on them to get you ready for combat.
I like that. What about you, JD? You've been overseas, done all this stuff between military and everything else. What's your take on what's combat fitness?
Well, I think you need to define what combat is for you first of all. Obviously, there's going to be a few different variations of that. For me, combat is obviously, for me personally, because my job is to stay alive, so I need to break down everything I need to do to make that happen. And obviously, it's not just physical. It's making sure that you're mentally there as well, so that when high pressure situations happen, that you can react as good as you can. So, I think training is so important because on game day, on match day, we need to make sure that we're 100% at the best of our ability to operate. So yeah, I think you need to break it down to what it is you're doing. If combat is jiu-jitsu for you, then that you're not just on the mats doing the drilling, but you're in the gym training your body to be stronger in those movements, to recover better, etc., etc. So, I mean, we can elaborate after this, but it's just a quick little example.
Jared?
Not Jerome, yeah. Just Jared.
Jerome's more like your street name, American ghetto.
Depends what
Appeal to
topic
different listeners.
Jerry's Jerome, it's usually when I'm in trouble.
Jerome gets you.
Yes. Jerome Andrew! I think JD hit on a good point. It depends on, I suppose, what combat means to you as to what combat ready fitness means. I mean, for me, I'm not in a position now necessarily where I'm fighting to stay alive every day from a work sort of sense, but for me, I suppose combat could mean protecting my family or myself against any sort of threat that might come my way. Generally, that's covered off by jiu-jitsu, but then it comes to strength and conditioning, it comes with that, and that's why JD is looking after me with the BJJ conditioning, and while I'm training, doing that as well. But there's other elements to that end as well, as far as the combat ready fitness goes, from a mental perspective too. I think mental fitness as much as the physical fitness plays a big part in that, being combat ready and fit.
Well, I suppose in the eyes of most of the listeners that don't come from military or police or something background, then the combat for them is probably going to be a street. Like, I don't consider competing martial arts to be combat anyway. Combat is like violence, and a street fight isn't the same as having, freaking 556 rounds click over your head and crack and stuff. I'm sure that's totally different again.
But even UFC, I mean, that's not violent really. You can tap, is a referee.
Yes.
You know, that's not violent.
No, I don't consider that violence. Competitive martial arts, yes. Well, my question is, so I had a lot of guys who are, that I know in, you know, first and second tier, you know, elite military units, and they're all pretty jacked, and probably never in their job, other than humping around heavy ass packs and body armor and weapons and shit. But they don't seem to be needing to be that jacked. My question is, are people that are physically, like if I've never been shot, hopefully, you know, touch wood, never happens, but as a bigger guy, are you harder to put down as bulls? Like if I'm 100 kilos versus 70 kilos and you give me, you know, 2 9mm rounds to the torso, or 2 2-3s, or 2 308s, whatever, is a bigger guy harder to go down? I mean, in an animal that's the case, certainly. Is it the same with humans, or not really?
Not with the high-powered weapons that are out there.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're really breaking it down at something at distance where someone was bigger than the other person and it...
Or now it's a disadvantage, really. A disadvantage getting here. Yeah, you don't want to be skinny.
Slowing down, and as it entered you, it had more room to cover, maybe if you break it down to that, but you know, in a normal setting at 100 metres, it's going to make no difference, is it?
Oh, okay. Well, I suppose so. But you do hear, like, the guy like me, not in those circles, does hear things like a bigger man is hard to kill. Like, humans are harder to kill than you think.
Yeah.
And so you hear stories, like, I know, I've heard both firsthand and written and, you know, video accounts of people talking about, like, if we rewind back to the 90s and like Mogadishu and stuff, and guys talking about shooting people with, like, I guess what were full metal jacket 5.56 rounds, and just being like, pew, 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 and they just like run off like it was nothing because they weren't expanding or hollow pointing.
I think it's that as well, you know, depending on what round it is, if it's just going through them, you know, and not hitting any vital organs, then yeah, they're going to keep going.
I mean, it can't feel great afterwards. You know, you run off to your little Somalia little hut. I'm sure having all those holes through you doesn't feel great. But maybe not the catatonic shock. So, because I had this argument with a friend talking about the ethics of hunting with a bow recently, and I said, hold on, if I shoot a deer with my 300 Win Mag, the hydrostatic shock that creates basically is going to paralyse an animal, as long as it was a good shot. But a bow, I don't know, you know, and that was the argument of like, are you going to create enough shock and damage and all the things that modern ballistic do? But I would hate to be shot with a combat design round.
Yeah, I mean, some rounds 30 cal and above. I mean, sometimes that doesn't even need to hit you to take off something.
No, I've personally seen a deer that didn't get hit, and it went so close to it. With only a 300 Win Mag, we're not talking about a 338 or 50 cal, and it, I guess the vacuum of pressure like sucked its eyes and brain out of its like skull. Anyway, it died instantly, and it didn't hit.
It's combat fitness.
Combat fitness. That deer was slacking off. It should have been doing deer push-ups. I mean, how important do you guys think? I mean, let's just talk and let's standardise it. There's different forms of it, but you've got a cardiovascular fitness. You've got strength, flexibility. I mean, what other ones? I mean, there's a million others. But in those, in terms of combat, like right now, 4 crackheads come in and attack each of us. One on one. Very fair fight. Fair fight.
Crackheads, you want
Oh no, I mean, we live in a society where that is like, if you're a normal bloke getting about and you do get in a punch on with someone that you couldn't avoid it with, there were awful drugs involved. I mean,
which is quite common.
Yeah, so okay, so 4 crackheads decide to have a punch on with us. For me, I think strength is quite important. I think in street fights, not an MMA fight that goes for 5-minute rounds, but if MMA fights were 30 seconds, built guys that have enough to output, that's big. In a street fight, those first 3 seconds is big.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas that means nothing in MMA.
And especially for, again, someone that doesn't know what they're doing either, that's just, and you get the headlock and pin them down and...
That's your idea of your 3 seconds violence? You grab him back headlock? It's like you're a younger brother.
If he's strong and he doesn't know what he's doing, I mean, that's what he's probably going to go to, isn't it?
Well, no, definitely. Yeah. But that concentrated violence, like for combat for our listeners that might, they're in, you know, they have a blue in the street. Like this is not going to go on for a long time. No. But one thing that I've always found in street confrontations, and I've always been a fit guy, even like competing in endurance things, you know, massively long bike races and stuff like that, you're exhausted after a street altercation. Like it feels like you've run a marathon. I've never run a marathon, so you might be able to say that. But like you are totally drained. Like, the amount that it took from you in those what felt like 30 seconds, but was in reality probably 3 seconds, is enormous. Yeah. So there is some cardio to support that strength. I mean, flexibility in a street fight, I don't know. Probably
wouldn't know it. It'd be nowhere near as important as strength, I would have thought.
Like, shit, I just need to do the splits.
Yeah.
Jerry's yoga training right now. It's just getting thrown out the window.
He was the one doing dead.
But then, you know, if we go to the other side and you look at a combat soldier, for example, that stretching is going to be really vital for him because he's carrying so much load with weighted vests and wearing his weapon with kit, etc. That he really needs, like, combat fitness for him is going to be stuff like doing deadlifts and squatting, so that his core is really strong, and that's what needs to be looked after the most, because over time his lower back is going to be fried at the knees and whatever, so that's completely different.
Do you think core strength is probably the most element of strength for a combat?
100%, and only something I've really got into like the last 3 years of my life is core strength. Doing stuff with kettlebells and sandbags and that, because I was always either a barbell or dumbbells and machines, and all was strong, but as soon as you do a plank or two, just get up and you can't do it.
I think you're fine with, like, you would have seen so many students come through and people with different physical abilities. I think core strength and grip strength are two of the biggest indicators of someone's actual strength. Like, you can have lots of big muscles or whatever, but if someone's core is weak and they don't have that twisting sort of power, right, or to get out positions, and same with grip, like your ability to actually produce force is huge.
It's massive. I mean, like, and there's a certain amount of like strength, like on the mat, you can call like fun boy strength, like dad strength. It's like what we often call it, like grab, it's got a little bit of force, But I think core strength is weird. Like, we were kind of joking before about this archetype of a yoga instructor who couldn't, rip apart a piece of A4 paper. Not back in I love yoga, but the concept of, he would say, well, I've got a very strong core. But then he's talking about putting 400 pounds on your back and squatting and having these 100-pound dead set. Like, core strength, I feel like someone that doesn't lift weights would be like, well, I work on my core. I go to like a Pilates class or something, and it's like, hold on. He's talking about lifting heavy ass things, and I know.
He's talking about bracing.
Like, he's talking about, like massively. Like, someone was telling me recently about core, the concept of like squatting and deadlifting and these heavy compound lifts, like thickening up your torso, which was interesting because this particular lad was talking about that as a disadvantage, saying, oh, you want, from an aesthetic point of view, you don't want a thick waist. But from my experience with combative athletes, those with thick waists, obviously your rotational power, your hips and everything, that forms a guy that can knock someone out. That has that. If you want to see a good knockout artist, you'll very rarely see them with thin weights because the rotations of their strikes. And then you see a guy that's like knocked a lot of dudes out. He might have his ab, that's fine, but he's going to have a thick. Do you know what I mean? So like that core strength isn't going to be achieved by me going to Pilates and working with the resistance band. Yes, but maybe squatting and stuff, like it would. But I think explosively. If someone said to me, all right, there's an Olympian in there and you've got to go have a punch on them. You just got to go start a fight with them and punch them. The marathon guy, no problem. I mean, obviously I speak about this as presuming it's this unarmed fight and I'm like a martial arts coach by trade, but don't care about that. But now, he's a discus thrower or he's an Olympic weightlifter or something. I mean, let alone an Olympic martial art. But now I'm like, fuck, this is going to be an intense 5 seconds. Like, I better knock this bloke out quick. Explosivity, I think, would be the most combatively dangerous thing. Unarmed. That guy has to run for his life. He's fine.
There's a heap of strength and conditioning coaches basically that I follow on Instagram that are real high up there and just super strong guys. all do jiu-jitsu now, like blue belts and that.
Yeah, I've seen that trend.
That's Stas Strength and some of those guys. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see them. I mean, they're rolling with black belts and their blue belts, and you know, their hard work for these black belts. Just have so much strength.
Cool. I think we were talking about it last time, like Mountain, he's doing jiu-jitsu. That's scary. That's a scary thought.
I'm not getting that sort of control. But in saying that, the top guys are still going to manage to do what they need to do, but it'll be interesting to see when they're black belts, you know, if they can keep going.
But whether they can last that long too. So like traditionally, I mean, jiu-jitsu's been around for ages. And remember, jiu-jitsu comes from Brazil, where I can just go in and just be like, I want 10, you know, packets of this steroid and 10 vials of this steroid. So people with crazy attributes have been in jiu-jitsu. And traditionally, they tend to taper off after about 240-pound mark, which is big, I know, but then it really tapers off. I know from my own jiu-jitsu, like I'm 6'4", so it's a bit different, but sitting at about 230 pounds now, I feel real good. I like me at 240, but when I am heavy, I'm like, I'm not as flexible. Like, but I don't need to bear and bolo someone in a street fight. I just need to grab them and punch their head with a grab. So being that big guy, like right now. But then you do hear talk. Have you guys ever heard? So like I used to have to, when I travel a lot and compete and do stuff, the big fitness expos. You'd probably maybe been to some, certainly to. So I've heard of like these rumours. I don't know if they're true, but they do appear to be corroborated on the internet. And it talks about big, yeah, exactly. I mean, big bodybuilder guy, like massive, and they are strong too. It's not like it's just show muscles. Like those guys are strong too. Like let's not kid ourselves. And then they get in some altercation and go to punch someone, and they tear a pec or bicep tendon. I've heard this story told a whole bunch of times. What do you guys think about that? That concept of I'm just building up in the gym and I'm never actually fighting, and then I go to fight, I'm going to be fine.
They're so fixated and stiff with their movements, and that's just...
Yeah, and I think a lot of it, I mean, if we're going for the bodybuilding example, like, I think a lot of times when people are taking, you know, performance enhancing drugs.
Wait, you're saying bodybuilders aren't all natural? Yeah. If I can't buy a protein powder or have vitamin, I'm not going to look like that?
Seems not too healthy.
For the record, I think these days, every Hollywood actor that was just a heartthrob that weighed 70 kilos or, you know, 160 pounds 5 years ago, now that dude's like 220 pounds jacked. That's just a heartthrob. He's not the action star. He's like, you have to be jacked now just to be the like sensitive guy in the movie. So I do think steroids do pervade a lot. But what do you think about that? Do you think like the average, okay, like a bodybuilder, you know, they've tried to get into MMA before, like bodybuilders and powerlifters, haven't many times before. Yeah. Their cardio always sucks.
So their training is so narrow, isn't it, as well? Like they're specifically only training for appearance.
Yeah, they are a specialist.
Yeah, and I think this has been spoken about a lot, I think, in UFC fighters and stuff like that, but there's only so much muscle you need for the activity that you're trying to do, and there's a point where if you have too much muscle, your heart has to work harder to actually circulate the blood.
Your heart probably not in a great shape.
Yeah, exactly.
When you just doubled your body mass and maybe done a few things that aren't too good for your heart in a way. Yeah, right?
So they just never seem to move well, they never move naturally. It's just so stiff. And that's never going to be good in combat, really.
Well, it's like when guys get, I don't know if you guys find this, and I mean, I know I'm obviously here, but at 6'4", I feel that I'm tall, but I'm not, you know, you see a guy that's 6'8", let's just say. I don't know where the cut-off is, I'm going to call it 6'5".
Because you're 4.
Exactly. But you know, you're like, oh my god, you look like an uncoordinated giraffe or roller skates or something. Yeah. Like they just look unfun. Like they might be able to be the best basketball player in town, but like get them to do a cartwheel, it's just like a laughing face.
Yeah.
Well, that's the same with people getting too heavy. I think.
Well, I mean, if you had to pick the ultimate combat athlete, what he would look like, I mean, it's not going to be a bodybuilder, it's not going to be a powerlifter. I mean, it's going to, you know, it's not going to be a marathon runner, it's going to be something in the middle, that's strong, that can run and do everything. Really.
Do you know what I would say? Who would be awesome? That he could, I reckon, would be great, just from the CrossFit world, you guys like, is Brent Fikowski.
Yeah.
He's got he's positive 8 index. He's lanky, but he's strong as F. Like that guy's like, I don't know what it is. I saw him snatching like massive weight, like 300 and something. And it's just like, what the like, what's going on?
Yeah, I think there's heaps of those.
I mean, there's a million of those, but just that particular guy, because he's positive on the ape index. Like so many guys are positive on the ape index. Like so, their reach, tip to tip of their arms, is more than their height.
Yeah.
So that if you're negative, so if you're stocky, you've got short arms. If you start punching at people, you're a size.
Yeah, but he's a perfect example. If you needed something to be perfect, I mean, that would be it, really.
Yeah. Well, so what do you guys do with the topic? Technically, that the person posted, the question was, what do you do to maintain it? So I suppose in a little 30-second little bubble, we'll go around in a circle. What do you do to maintain your fitness right now?
I've spent a very long time training a lot, so for me, I don't personally lift heavy anymore. I feel like I'm quite happy with where my strength is, so I just try and maintain it. So I would do some type of like cross fitness type training. I do that Monday to Friday. So I just focus on lifting something heavy, getting myself out of breath, and just making myself feel a little bit uncomfortable with my fitness. And then I try and use a lot of my jiu-jitsu for my actual cardiovascular training now. Like I have an intent a lot of the time in rolling and getting myself out of breath and pushing the height instead of just the actual rolling part. Like I'll treat it like I'm also working on my fitness.
Yeah. What about you, JD?
So for me, I try and do compound movements mainly. So I'm going to each week make sure that I do like a floor press, a squat, a push, a pull, and then some accessory stuff. Usually my arms and just some other accessory stuff.
On a daily basis?
No, not on just a weekly basis.
Oh, weekly basis. I was going to say.
Yeah,
Jesus.
so I'll try and get them in. Daily basis. I'll try and hit some form of cardio up every day from 20 to 60 minutes. I'll try and make sure I get a bit of stretching in at least once a week, like a decent stretch session. And then jiu-jitsu a couple of times a week. No more than 2 really for me, that's enough. Yeah. And then that kind of covers everything really.
Jerry?
Well, I'm not an expert, so I take the advice of others, really in relation to that sort of stuff. So one of JD's programs for strength and conditioning, jiu-jitsu for some extra cardio on top of that, and then some yoga as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously I do jiu-jitsu every night, but weights, I don't know, 4 or 5 mornings out of 7 maybe. But I don't do any other cardio, just jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Like,
is it because you don't like it?
I mean, hold on, I'll be happy. I might spend a couple of hours today in a kayak fishing or something, but like, I don't really consider that cardio. I'll go for a long walk. That's not, I mean, for me, unless I'm like I'm about to die, I don't really consider it cardio. So, yeah, I've always been naturally pretty lean guy, so I don't really feel the need to do it for any other needs other than for combat. And the only cardio I really need is jiu-jitsu. Yeah. So I'll just do jiu-jitsu for it. It also happens to be my job, which is also efficient and convenient.
Now you do compound movements as well?
Yeah, I changed it. So obviously I learned, I was hitting you up just earlier today for advice, JD, but I try to mix it up and learn from things. I'm trying to, at this point in my life, not demanding things from my body, because of where I'm at with my career and injuries and stuff, but more like how can I give back to my body. So for me, like my weakness as an athlete was weakness. Like when I first went to Texas, and like these black belts were like, 300 pounds, like massive monsters of muscle and shit. I was like, okay, I better lift weights. So weakness was my weakness. I was always flexible. I was always fit, but weakness was my weakness.
I think as you get older as well, it's good just to do stuff that will you a little bit longer. You know, build the strength through your hips and protect your knees and your neck. And these are things that when you get older, they're going to put you in a nursing home, so you need to look after them, not just for your job or whatever, but when you get older. I've tried to get mum doing some deadlifting and that because I don't want her to go to a home when she's older, when she doesn't have to go if she looks after herself now. So.
Does she get on the road?
She does sometimes, yeah. I've got a grip thing and that, because I mean, I read this thing a few years ago. It was like 60% of people end up in nursing homes because their grip goes and they can't pick stuff up.
Yeah.
So the only reason they're in a nursing home is because their grip's gone, everything else is functional. I mean, that'd be like a jail sentence. So if I can just give my mum a grip machine that she can do once a day, and that's going to help her, then I won't ever get a home just because.
No.
Yeah.
As a bonus, Mum's going to have some jacked ass forearms. Captains of Crushed. Popeye.
Yeah.
All right.
There we go.
All right, fellas. I think we can wrap it up there. Almost half an hour.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
All right.